Hi, welcome to Patriot Tough Talk. I'm your host, Mike. Just wanted to get in today to drop a few minutes out and chat about hypocrisy. I mean, the word hypocrisy is being used a lot lately. But if you really look at it, we've been in a country full of hypocrisy for decades. I've seen a few movies lately, and they've been about, when chemical companies were killing people off and um, lawyers were going after them, along the line of the Aaron Brockovich movie or Civil Action or Dark Waters. The fact is that we were being hypocrites then, and these movies are probably from the 80s, 90s. My own personal experience with chemical spills and chemical dumping. The company my dad worked at was dumping, and him and 16 other men contracted rare forms of cancer and died. So the subject to me is personal, but what is the difference between that hypocrisy? And they were killing people and doing things. And not that I believe any of that is stopped. I just believe that they've found more unnoticeable methods. I'm sure it's gotten better as far as the waste, but the products continue to come, and they continue to make products. They continue to make products, and at the expense of what or who? And I'm sure, I mean, as of recently, in the last 5 years, I believe there was a situation up in Michigan where the water was tainted and was making people sick. Now, that was big companies, man, and they were working money in mind, strictly around what we could pay these people off and still make billions. They were making billions a year on these chemicals through different chemical companies. I'm not going to name them. I don't need them up in my business, so they know who they are. But the hypocrisy from corporate America was one thing. They had money, and they wanted to fight everybody, and they'd fight these lawyers until they couldn't fight anymore. And it's why, you get all these feel-good movies. And I think they're put out there just to keep people at bay that, oh, look, it's working. Our fight, our word, our anger gets heard. I don't believe that. I don't believe we're ever heard. And hypocrisy of today's government is abound. It's abound. The media, and there's a few guys out there that are trying to show or act as if they're tough, hardcore media. They ask questions and they get ignored or they get talked around by the press secretary. And this whole thing that came up about during the election about that Trump knew soldiers had bounties on their heads, and I don't recall it. I don't recall seeing it or hearing about it. But and now they find out that it's not real. What? You campaigned on that. You campaigned on that stance that Trump knew that American bounties or bounties were on American heads of soldiers, and we were doing nothing about it. And now it comes out that it wasn't verifiable. So, henceforth, not a fact. And we're constantly kicking sand at Russia right now. But we're letting China and Iran kind of get away with what they want. So, what makes Russia worse than China or Iran? Well, to me, living here in a small town, nothing. They're all the same. They don't bother me, I don't bother them, right? But at what point do we as a public, at what point do we as a country go ahead and say, well, what's really going on? Now, so far, the Biden administration and the Democrats have thrown two false flags about Russia, threw them out in the public's eyes, put them right out front. Both were proven. The situation where Trump was colluding with Russia was proven false. The situation where Trump knew about bounties being put on the heads of American soldiers by Russia has now been shown false. When asked about it, we get the runaround of the credibility of the person who said it basically wasn't good. So, I guess what's bothering me about hypocrisy, or about the word hypocrisy, is basically that means do as I say, not as I do. Do as I say, not as I do. There's all these little stories that are blipping out, you know, Nancy Pelosi and insider trading. Hillary Clinton bought a dossier from a Russian agent. Why is she not in jail? Why are we, the people, held to a different standard? If it was us colluding as an individual with Russia, we would go to jail for treason for a long time, like forever. But Hillary Clinton, and they have proof that she bought the dossier from a Russian agent, is still wandering around somewhere spouting her lies. Why is it that Joe Biden says oh, excuse me, COVID. Joe Biden says that COVID, that we must stay secluded. Maybe we can get with family come 4th of July. Maybe. Small groups. Yet, we're vaccinating people, and we still can't gather. And people can't gather even if they're vaccinated. Why is that? I thought the vaccine was supposed to prevent the spreading of the disease. I thought the vaccine was supposed to make it safe for the elderly to go back out in public. Yet, they've just released the people from the nursing homes in New York recently to go out, but under certain conditions, in certain time frames. Because you do know COVID is time sensitive. That after 10 o'clock at night, COVID really ramps up. They just continued to open the bars till midnight in New York because apparently they've combated COVID to the point where bars can stay open till midnight. Prior to most recently, it's been 10 o'clock. So after 10 o'clock, COVID runs rampant. So they're really doing a good job. They've bought us 2 more hours at the pub. Early on in New York, if you were in A block and your pub was in A block or your restaurant, you couldn't open. But in B block they could, because COVID didn't cross that magic line. The entire government is hypocritical. And I'm not talking Democrats. The Republicans are standing around screaming like a bunch of old women. We're gonna arr. But they can't do anything, and they know it, and they're grandstanding. They're standing there making noise, yelling at this guy, yelling at that guy, in order to try and maintain some form of a party. Because they want to keep some of us, we the people, come the voting times in 2022. The fact is, they know they can't do anything. Their aggression and their anger is only looked at by the media, who's hypocritical, as right-wing extremism. So if Chuck Schumer threatens 2 Supreme Court justices, it's okay. It's all right. But Jim Jordan from Ohio gets in a pissing contest with Fauci, and everybody's up in arms. They want his head. Really? I am pretty sure that 2 Supreme Court justices on a status ladder are much higher than Dr. 1 mask, 2 mask, 3 mask Fauci. So, if it was up to me, there'd be no mask. People are getting the shot. If you get the shot, what have you gained? What freedoms have you gotten back for getting the shot? You're going to lose freedoms. Because it's the hypocrisy of this government. And as I said, it don't mean Republican or Democrat. It's the whole government. Because they're all playing a role in a show for you. They're all playing a role to keep you either linked in, attached to whatever their agenda is. Their agenda is not ours. My local congressman is a good man. Or I think he's my local senator or House rep. I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. But he's a good man. So a lot of people on either side of the fence voted for him. Well, now he's towing the party line. It's not what his constituents want. Because I'm one of his constituents, and I know other people that voted for him that are constituents, and he's not doing what we want. So come election time for him again, it's going to get pointed out, and he may not be there. You know, political theater is what we're getting. We're getting the right putting up a resistance, a strong, but they're not doing anything. They can't block anything. Anything they do is going to be executive order over anyway. They're just trying to save face by looking like they're still the good guy in the eyes of the right. Fact is, they're no better than the left. They're not doing anything for us because they can't stop the executive order. Everybody and their brother's talking about 2022. 2022 is a myth. 2024 is a myth. We had a level of issues with the last election, And I kept hearing, but it's not enough to overturn the vote. Wait a minute. There's more hypocrisy. Yeah, they cheated, but it's not enough to overturn the vote. So we're supposed to be okay with, cheating's okay as long as it's not enough to change the election. Well, the border's okay, and bringing people in and giving $15,000 to illegal aliens over homeless vets is okay, because we're going to tell you it's okay. And the lemming are going to look at the bright light and just fall off the cliff. I'm really in a bad space as far as our government, as far as the whole show. Not this show. As far as the political theater that we're facing. Now I could talk for hours today because I'm on a roll. And the reality is that I try to keep my stuff around 15-20 minutes. But the hypocrisy that is being placed in front of us every day, you can see it. You just got to look. You can find it. And political theater in itself should be defined as hypocrisy. It's hypocritical. The amount of and look, I'm not the best person in the world. I'm not the worst. And I try not to be hypocritical. I try not to do things that make me a hypocrite. But it is on TV every day. Now, I haven't watched TV since the election. So all the news I get are blurbs through my phone alerts. And I look into it a little bit, and it bores me. The whole concept of everything that is going on right now bores me. Nobody can show me proof on anything. Nobody has, the media has stopped reporting news decades ago, apparently. So I don't trust any of them. What I do trust, though, is my own mind. And I can read an article and take from that article from an open mind. Not a left mind, not a right mind. But you should be frustrated and you should be angry the amount of hypocritical things that are occurring on a daily basis from both sides. There is no sides. It is a side. Politicians have their own side. It's them against the people currently. And we don't have the power to say anything about it. And our congressmen and women that go up, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who goes in there as an average person and attacks, boy, they're looking at every way to shut her down and keep her silent. So even if you win your elections in your hometown and you go up and you have a strong opinion, look, I don't like AOC as far as a candidate, but you know what? She's passionate, and they keep her on a short leash too. Anybody who has their own opinion that is against the machine gets silenced. That shouldn't be right. That shouldn't be allowed. And there's your shot at hypocrisy. When the voice of the American people, regardless if you agree with that voice, gets shut down so that somebody else can speak and spew rhetoric and put on a crazy, crazy good show of theater. And each side has their actors. Well, look, I'm out. Happy Monday to you. Look forward to seeing you the rest of the week. Peace out.